Welcome to the podcast, Jacqueline. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for being here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Great to speak to you and your audience.
Thank you. I know so much of our audience overlaps, so I know you're going to have so many great tips for us in this episode. But for somebody who might not know who you are, why don't you give us a quick intro on what you do?
Thanks. So I'm Jacqueline Snyder, and I have a podcast called the Product Boss Podcast. So anywhere you're listening, and we've helped over 70, 80,000 product-based business owners around the world grow their businesses. And so it's really for people who make something and sell it. But my background comes as a fashion designer. I actually lived in Florida. That was my first job. Hired out of school to work for Italian lingerie company. And it was run by a couple with their kids, but it was a $25 million business when I was there, and it was a huge company. And I was given a lot of opportunity. It still was run like a mom and pop. So even though I was fresh out of school, they gave me this opportunity, and it was impactful to be a part of everything that was happening. And then when I left there, I actually went and worked for a celebrity brand as her fashion designer. And that again, I was given all these opportunities almost like I was running my own business. Which was good and bad, right? Like I got to make decisions and create the designs and really have vision in the company. But at the same time, I was there really late at night, cutting fabric and making sure we had samples for fashion shows we were doing and all the things that come with that industry. And shortly after that, I got really burnt out and I left. And I started my own business, which was Designer Consulting Co-op, where I've now helped since 2007, over 2,000 people start fashion apparel or accessory brands. And in that time, I was like, oh, I should do this for myself. I'm doing all these other people's lines, these brands. I have ideas. I can do this. So I did. I started a company called Couture in that time where I dressed celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Carrie Underwood. We were sold across the globe in many different stores. And I really learned. But what's the thing, and I think a lot of the moms listening would appreciate this, is I had my consulting business with clients. I had my cuffs business, which was a product business I was running. I had my first kid during that time. Then I had my second kid during that time. And I was like, okay, something's got to give. It's either my own sanity, which was already slipping, or what am I doing? What am I doing here? And the thing that felt the hardest to me was the cuffs company at that point. I had run it for several years, but our phones kept getting bigger. And Cuffs Couture was a wearable wrist wallet that you could put your
Mhm.
ID, your credit card, cash, lipstick. It was from my clubbing days when I didn't want to take a purse to go dancing. Phones were getting bigger, and the buyers kept saying, "Where do we put the phone?" And I didn't have the energy capacity or really at that point the care to figure that out. I was like, I have these two babies. I have a company that's doing really well. I've run the gamut on this business. I liked it. It did really well. I had all of this good stuff happen, but maybe it was time to sunset that. So that's when I decided to shut down Cuffs Couture. And in all of that's what led me to starting the Product Boss. And then here we are years later.
Yeah. You just inspire so many people who have a passion to make something or sell a product and be able to find time and financial freedom in that. And it's just so inspiring. I don't have a products business, but you have so many tips that are applicable to anybody who's running any kind of business that I think they'll really benefit from. Yeah, in that process, I know that you're really great about helping someone in a business find focus and to maximize their profit by finding clarity in their business. What if somebody is in the midst of their business right now and they're feeling overwhelmed and need to find that focus? How do you recommend that we do that?
Great question. Just crawl into a dark hole and don't pay attention to
Right.
anything outside. That's like where my story was, right? Like I thought I could do everything, but I
Mhm.
wasn't doing anything well or enough. And I was being pulled thin, and it was like nothing was going to grow. And so I think first is really thinking and sitting down and thinking, why am I doing this? What
Mm.
do I want? What is my end result? It's so much easier if we can work backwards. We know the answer and then we work backwards and we problem solve for it. I know for me, I wanted time freedom. I wanted to be, my husband's an actor. So He was doing Broadway. He was going on tour. There was all sorts of things he was doing that I had to be a part of. And I couldn't be locked down to one place was one thing. I had two kids that I wanted to be with. I wanted to make a lot of money. I could have both, right? It's that both and. I
Mhm.
wanted this life that I imagined for myself as being a woman that wanted her career, wanted to make her own money, wanted to be a mother and a wife and be with family. Is that asking too much? But then it's something does have to give. So one of the things I found the most power in is staying focused.
Mhm.
Because if you know what you want your end result to be,
Mhm.
then you just say, okay, is this distracting me from it? Is this taking me away from that end result? Yes, I have a gazillion ideas, but if I do all of those ideas, then something else is going to give time with my
Mhm.
kids, going on a date night, sleeping, working out, money, actually, because it costs a lot of money to develop and create new ideas.
Mhm.
So when it comes to focus, I think one, it's like thinking, what do I want my end result to be? And the second thing is that we don't have to make more and do more for more people to like us.
Mhm.
And we talk about it as like a bestseller or your hero product or your core offering. And whether you're a product person or a service-based person, if we're offering all the things, people don't even know where to follow us. They don't know, oh, what do you sell? But
Mhm.
if you're known for something, if you're a product business and you're known for this unbelievable clean ingredient skincare line for aging skin,
Mhm.
and there's something very specific about that product, then people know to refer them to you. But if you're like, I'm also doing body products and nail creams and all this other stuff,
Mhm.
people will get confused and they won't know. So we want to become referable and then you just get better and you optimize. And actually, that's where you become more profitable, right? Our systems, our operations, our cost of goods, everything starts to be able to be reduced when we're focused. And then the profit comes, which yields the lifestyle we're hoping for.
Yeah, I really love it when you ask people, what do you want to be known for? Because I don't even think we think of that when we're just putting out more and more. We need to do more. And I think that's a really powerful question that you have your listeners ask themselves. So, what are some quick changes that we can make in our business to find that clarity and to find more profitability when we're feeling overwhelmed?
Success leaves clues.
Mhm.
And I would look to what feels successful.
Mhm.
So if you've started selling, if you have any sort of feedback that you can get,
Mhm.
you can look and ask yourself, like, if people are parting with their cold hard cash for your product,
Mhm.
they like it. And if you're like, keep buying this, but I want them to buy this thing over here, it's you've got the thing. So I think you want to look to the clues that are being left for you in the way of, okay, are people buying this? Are they attracted to this? I
Mhm.
think the easiest and fastest way to do that a lot of times is in person,
Mhm.
face to face with your ideal or potential customer. And then if you're like, oh, everybody loves my necklaces, then and they keep buying my necklaces, then we need to make more necklaces. We don't have to think, I'm going to make earrings to go with those necklaces or bracelets, right? Maybe you can be known for your necklaces. This is not forever, but this is to be known for a core product and get really good at it and become known. And then you can know what your iterations are going to be later.
Mhm.
But when we start to get distracted and add on all these other things, that's the stuff that drains our bank accounts versus ads. So usually what I
Mhm.
tell our students is really first look at your numbers, right? We want to know our numbers, look at them and see what the data is telling us. And we talk about the 80-20 rule, which is the Pareto principle of that 80% of your revenue can come from 20% of your products.
Mhm.
So a lot of times Etsy makers and people like that are coached to make a gazillion different items, to have so many things, two new things a day, but it doesn't allow for us to get that data that we're looking for. So if you can look at that and say, what are my top 20% products? Or what are a couple? People love my candles and they're constantly buying the jasmine scented one in the 8-ounce jar. Well, then we're seeing the data. And then I want for people to think, okay, I'm going to put my energy towards that. So now when we're thinking about marketing, posting on social media, sending out emails, changing the homepage of our website, whatever it is, we start to focus on the stuff we know already works.
Mhm.
So many times I see people trying to push the stuff that's not working, but it's like they're telling you they don't want it. So sell more of what they want and be known for that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And like you said, just honing in on those things so you can get the data and finding what you can be known for. I think we overcomplicate it so often. And
Yes.
we spread ourselves too thin, and then we get really frustrated and sometimes just want to quit. But I loved how you talked about marketing there for a minute. And I love your marketing. I think it's so powerful and it's so dialed in on your customer. And what are some tips for moms who want to start and grow a business that can focus on the right things in marketing to grow their business and also juggle all the things? They may not have a team yet.
I think we've gotten lazy when we think that Instagram or social media is the only way to market to our customers.
Mhm.
And I know this because I've been in business for 20 years and we did not have social media as a marketing tool.
Mhm.
Social media, in fact, started for friends to connect with friends when we weren't
Mhm.
like around each other. So we're so fortunate now in this day and age that we have this technology, that we have this access, that we could reach people anywhere on this planet if
Mhm.
they have internet. But we think that is the only way. And I'm seeing so many people start to get distracted by that. I do have a strong social media. I don't have the most followers, right? Like we're working on growing it, but it's not the biggest platform you've ever seen, but we're highly successful. And
Mhm.
I see other students of mine. I have a student that has 1,500 followers and she has a $25 million company
Mhm.
a year.
Mhm.
I have another student that made $200,000 this last year, this first year of business for her. She has 24 followers.
Yeah.
So we have to think like, where are our customers and how do they want to be marketed to? There's
Mhm.
so much media. I think about marketing in paid,
Mhm.
organic, and partnership.
Mhm.
So you can either pay to be found. You can
Mhm.
do things organically, which would be social media, but also might be doing something in person, doing a giveaway, doing a pop-up, um, asking people for their email addresses. That's organic. And then partnership is when we're partnering with people. So it's whether you're doing a pop-up at a retail store and
Mhm.
they're bringing people, whether you're working with some sort of influencer creator, whether you're getting on a podcast, but it's getting in front of other people's audiences.
Mhm.
The easiest way is I see the fastest growth is if you have money for ads.
Mhm.
That is, yes, you pay to play, you're playing, you're in the game, but not everyone can afford that. And
Mhm.
I do not recommend you to say, I'm going to figure out my own ads because I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money doing their
Yeah,
own
there's a
ads.
lot of
So
strategy involved in that.
yeah. So I'm not saying that's the way to go. And I'd rather you have you when I started running ads, I was like, what can I afford to lose? I treated it like I was gambling. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
what can I put on the roulette table and say, bet on black? Well, sucks to be me.
Give it a
Um,
spin.
yeah. So that's the way you have to go about it unless you do have the funds and the cash and the reserves and the knowledge or the connections. For organic, and we're talking about our brand, it's honing in on who our customer is and what
Mhm.
does our customer want to see from us? What do they need to believe? What are beliefs they already have that we need to overcome for them? And then how do they be seen? People want to see themselves. So whenever we're selling anything, and people are like, I made this for you because I have a farm and at my farm, I milk these cows or these goats and I use their goat's milk and they don't care about you. They don't care about your story. It's nice to know a version of it, but really your customers want to know, what are you doing for me? How is
Mhm.
that goat's milk going to help my skin?
Mhm.
Right? How is all of this going to benefit me? So when we're thinking about marketing, whether it's social media, whether it's email, whatever version you're doing, like you need to make it solve a problem or meet a need, want, or desire for your customer.
Mhm.
So I would say consistency is as soon as you can really understand who your ideal customer is and
Mhm.
what problem you're solving for your customer
Mhm.
through your products. And anything that we make and sell will solve a problem or meet a need, want, or desire.
Mhm.
So even a Chanel bag, I always talk about Chanel bags, and I'm like, even a Chanel bag, it meets a need, want, and desire of me to feel X way about myself or meets a desire of wanting to own something like that because I was in the fashion industry. So it's going to meet my individual need and my need might be different than someone else's, but we can all buy a bag. We could walk around with a plastic bag from the grocery store. Why do we buy the bags that we choose to carry our stuff in? We like the look, we like the labels, we like the quality, whatever it is. So I think when you're thinking about marketing, it's who your customer is, what problem we're solving for them, right? And then we need to find that intersection between what we're putting out, what we're pushing out in marketing, and how
Mhm.
that's going to pull in our ideal customer.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I think too, I wanted to pick your brain about how we can stand out in a crowded market. And I know that's closely related to putting together your marketing strategy. So what tips do you have for that? Because I hear it so much. I can't do X, Y, and Z because so many other people are doing it. But I think that there's always room for innovation and somebody new.
There is. That's why I have like in this video, if you had watched it, I have 6 candles behind me, and I actually do
Right.
that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They're wax, we burn them. They have a
Mm-hmm.
scent. And some of us might have a lot of the same scent. Like coming out of the holidays, I have a lot of pine scented, winter scented candles, and I love each one individually. So when we think about that again, there's so much more to selling a product. In fact, the product is usually the least, like it has the least weight in the buying decision of the customer in a lot of ways because it's usually everything else around the product. It's the brand that they're buying into. I bring up Chanel again, and I could have a knockoff Chanel, which is leather and chain and whatever, or even not even knockoff, just a leather bag that looks similar, or that bag. They're made out of the exact same materials. So what makes someone spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a bag and someone spend $50 on a bag? And it's the value. And it goes back to that idea of attracting your ideal customer and speaking to what their pain points are. But then what are they seeing about the brand? What do they need to understand? Is it um designer is designer? Let's talk about candles. So candles might be that they might like how it's made. They might like the story about it. They might like all that stuff. But it's whatever they're feeling as you're marketing to them so that they see themselves with it. So I have another candle company that we work with a lot. It's owned by Greg. It's called Lodestone Candles, and he comes from like a background where he did printing, so they're like really nicely pressed leather pressed labels, but he always makes it feel like it's in this like old library, like old books, and has this rich sort of feeling to it. And it leans masculine, but it's not uber masculine. It's just echoes like this old way of being.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself, when we land on his website and we see the website, we're like, oh, I like this
Mm-hmm.
or I don't. I feel like I belong or I'm leaving. And then they go deeper into the product and they read the names and they look at it. And they bring up candles because people are making millions of dollars selling candles online. They cannot smell them, but they can sell them. So I
Mm-hmm.
think when we want to think about how we stand out in these crowded markets, it's like we have to see what we stand for and what the brand is bringing and what it makes. And it goes back to what I said, the ideal customer, solving that problem, solving that need, want, and desire, but it's so much more than the product. And we dig into that inside of our programs. But I believe any of us can sell anything. And it also then has to be backed up by the non-sexy stuff is a good user experience. People can navigate your e-commerce. You have great photos. You're using video. Think about your own choices as a customer and consumer. And if you were to land on someone's website and it was janky and hard to follow and bad pictures, you would jump right off of it. But
Mm-hmm.
when you land in an experience like a website that you're like welcomed in, like a beautiful restaurant or a lovely store, then you're going to stay for a while. So we
Mm-hmm.
really have to think we're talking brand, but also the experience of the user when they're interacting with your brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a buyer at every price point. Don't be afraid to price it higher. If you're wanting that more luxury experience, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to want to buy it. So, one of the other popular limiting beliefs is that we can't start a business or we can't grow a business because we're moms and we have limited time. And I love how you just totally blow that out of the water and have so many strategies for adding different channels in your business that don't necessarily mean that you have to work more. But so, what are some of your tips for managing the business and motherhood?
I just got off a call right before this with a woman that was saying like she's so overwhelmed. She's recently divorced like 9 months ago. She's a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. She has her full-time job and her chocolate company.
Yeah.
I was like, you need help, my friend. I just got my 3-year-old in school, so I feel so much better. We all feel that relief when we can get like the
Oh,
babies out of the house. But my mentor had said to me, hire for as much help as you can afford.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard because I think for a lot of us, we were modeled families where most likely one parent, probably the mom, was responsible for the family, the housework, the internal stuff, or she was like the default parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maybe she was a teacher, but she was there picking up the kids, or there's probably more of that than there is now. And then there was the other parent. And I think for me, I was raised by a housewife, a mom of 5 kids, and that's what her place was, in the home. That was literally what we were told. And I was like, my place is not in the home. I'm gonna find I'm gonna hire people to be in the home. No, in my head, that wasn't what I wanted. Like I wanted to have both and.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you all to believe that you can have both and that, but we cannot do it by ourselves. We just cannot do it by ourselves. It's nobody like can do it by themselves. We have not seen men be super successful for the last hundreds of years because they were also dealing with the house, dealing with the pets, dealing with the kids, making sure food was made. And then they were like the Rockefellers. No.
Right.
And they had people helping them. They had teams around them.
Mm-hmm.
And we also, when they say it takes a village to raise a kid, we used to be more community based.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're by ourselves and we're doing this on our own. And like we maybe ask for help. And if you're fortunate to have help or have family next to you, but a lot of us feel very alone. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest thing I could tell any of you is whatever help you can afford,
Yeah.
as simple as paying the $100 a year for Instacart and having Instacart shop your groceries and deliver them to you.
Yeah.
I know the prices are higher on Instacart, but if you want to buy back your time, then you get to make the decision. Do I want to drag the kids in the car in the middle of winter to the grocery store to buy all the things, or go to Target, which is like fun and a nightmare, right? Do I want to do that, or can I just solve for what I need to solve for? I find myself spending less money when I use an app like that because
Mm-hmm.
I actually can see the checkout, right? When I'm
Mm-hmm.
checking out. And so
Right.
I'm not like, oh, what, like Russian roulette. What's this
Maybe
going to be?
this, maybe that.
So hire for help. I also want you all to think, and this is something that I came up with, which is this idea of the blend, like a
Mm-hmm.
blended life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll hear moms a lot say, how do you balance it all? How do you balance it all? Or, oh my gosh, you juggle so much. And I'm like, No, like I don't love juggling because juggling means something's in the air, something's falling down. I have to try and catch it all. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of pressure. And then balance feels like, then if it's balance, like everything has to be perfect. And we know that it's not perfect. We know we could have a really big work day and it's a snow day. We know we have a really big work day and our kids are homesick because everyone's sick. And it's just not as black and white as that. So I call it the blend. I have a smoothie. I have a smoothie every single day. And I imagine it like some days I want a little bit more almond butter. Some days I want to add some strawberries in. Like I mix it differently. Each day is going to look different. And so we just have to treat our days like a blend. Some
Mm-hmm.
days are going to need us to be more mom or more wife. Some days we're going to have, wow, I've got so much time to myself. What am I even going to do with myself? Sometimes more work is necessary. So it's being ourselves. Again, I grew up with a lot of comparison to my mom and feeling like a crappy mom because I don't cook for my kids that often. I'm not the one who picks them up from school, but try and walk them to school in the mornings. I try and participate in the events I can participate in at school to a point. I volunteered to go on one field trip this year. I'm not hosting parties, none of it. I used to be a class mom, but you have to, I'm not going to always be, but I did for a point, and then I'm going to pick and choose the things I want to do. And I can't keep looking backwards because my mom didn't own a multi-million dollar company. She didn't have like hundreds of thousands of people that were also reliant on her, and a team and a husband. So we have to just allow ourselves to realize we're actually paving the path for our children. And what's so cool, I'm going to cry if I say this. My daughter yesterday said to me, like, we're looking to maybe buy a house. We'll see. Maybe in the future when this airs, I'll have bought it. But I'm qualifying by myself right now for the house, which
Mm-hmm.
is unbelievable that I myself have done what I wanted to do as a little girl to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling my kids this, is I'm really proud of myself because I grew up with an abusive dad, a mom that couldn't leave, all this stuff. And all I wanted was for her to have this power of money that she could then make choices that would have kept us all more safe. And I've done that. And then my daughter told me I want to be like you when I grow up. And I was like, oh my God, I've never heard her say this. And she's 8. And I was like, and I started crying. Sorry, did I hurt your feelings? No, like it just struck me
I'm
so
gonna
deep.
cry.
I know. But I was like, I'm modeling this for them. So future, my children, the legacy I'm leaving to my son and my daughter
Hmm.
is totally different than what I grew up with, different than what my husband grew up with. And there's not going to be this weird thing of what's it like for a woman to do both? She's going to have seen what women, it's not going to be a question. Dad does laundry and picks them up from school. Mom's at work. We do things together. It's not going to be what like a mom or a dad or a wife or a husband sort of situation. It's just going to be a family that's in partnership together. And so I'm just really excited. That's what I'm going to leave for them.
It is an exciting time, and you're definitely a trailblazer in that. And I know we're getting up a little bit about against time, but are there any more challenges that you commonly hear among the moms and women that you serve that maybe you would like to address?
I want you all to know that anything is possible. And if people tell me that it's not possible, I feel it's dramatic, but dead inside. So I just need this ability of possibility. I don't know what it's going to be. I just need to know that I can try and figure it out.
Hmm.
I think that we create glass ceilings for ourselves. So there's Oprah's glass ceiling. Then there's our careers glass ceiling. And then there's the glass ceiling that each of us individually create for ourselves,
Hmm.
which is so much lower. It's like a drop ceiling. We're like in the basement,
Right.
like with the low ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're like, we can't even look past that. And a lot of times that's because we're surrounding ourselves. We're not maybe choosing it, but wherever we are in the world, whatever our community looks like, whatever the family we're around, our friends that we grew up with, we all know what we know when you're isolated in a community.
Hmm.
But the more you can expose yourself to things like this, like to podcasts and learning from other women and being in rooms with women that are doing really big, amazing things, just a little bit further ahead will model for you what's possible. And I just ask everybody, instead of, I'm not going to say break through the glass ceiling, can we just lift the lid? Let's lift it up. I imagine the visual for me is I lift this glass lid and I look up and it's just blue sky, just going, the California blue skies. And then there is no cap. There is no lid. Anything is possible. And then I get that freedom of just figuring it out. So that would be my first thing. And the second thing I want you all to know is that you want to just surround yourself with people that want to uplift you, that
Hmm.
want to hold you up. If people are pulling you down or really negative, it's hard to keep going. It's really hard. So if you can't get that at home, if you don't have a group of friends, I used to say, I'm not going to roll up to the moms at the playground and be like, I just had a $10,000 day. That sounds nuts. Or I just lost $10,000 today. Also nuts. They're not the people for that. But if I'm in community with other moms that own businesses, with other women that own businesses, with business owners in general, and I come and be like, I crushed it today and I made 10 grand, they'd be like, that is awesome. How did you do that? What did you do? Tell me your strategy. And now we're sharing and we're collaborating. So I want you all to there's different groups for different parts of our life. And I love that they listen to this, right? This podcast is specifically for moms and business. And it's just so valuable. We don't realize how isolated we are or how alone we can feel, but then how together we can feel when we're brought together in community like this.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I started this podcast, is that I thought for sure nobody would want to listen, and we've created this amazing community. And then I felt so alone and couldn't believe all the moms that I heard that they weren't good enough. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been amazing having time to share your expertise and your wisdom and all that you've grown. And so, where can listeners connect with you and find out more about the Product Boss, because you have so much to offer?
Amazing. So I'm at the Product Boss on whatever social channel, but we mainly hang out on Instagram. Come follow us. You can listen to the show and follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. Same thing. Make sure to follow. We release 2 episodes a week. And I'd love to give a gift to your listeners. So if they head to the Product Boss slash mom Business Coach. We'll just use the whole name, Mom Business Coach, theproductboss.com/mom business coach. I'd love to give you our resource guide. It's got over 300 resources for product-based business owners. It'll be things that are really specific. So if you're thinking of starting a product biz, if you're in it, come on over and we'll have that guide for you and really help support you with more resources as you're starting to build this business.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me.